Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking through a couple player props I like over on Prizepicks for the Week 6 NFL slate. We're going to talk about props that I like for the full Sunday slate, so the games on Sunday, starting with the London game, which I don't have any plays for, but mainly the afternoon games, and then I do actually have a play that I like from Sunday Night Football that we're going to talk about. We got 4 total plays to give out in this video, and as always guys, we're going to break down these plays. We're going to share why I like them. Now, before we do get started, make sure you guys hit that like button down below. If you enjoy these Prizepicks videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to Prizepicks, and if you don't have a Prizepicks account, be sure to check out Prizepicks, sign up, use that promo code NOAH. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, when you sign up for Prizepicks with promo code NOAH and you place your first lineup, you will instantly get $50 in promo funds added to your account. So sign up, use that code, play your first lineup, and whether you win or lose that lineup, you will instantly get $50 in promo funds added to your account. So be sure to check out Prizepicks if you guys have not yet. And also, do want to give a quick shout out to Sleeper, because we do have a partnership with Sleeper as well. And if you guys want to check out Sleeper, you can do so linked down below in the description. Or again, just use that promo code NOAH over on Sleeper, and you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100. Now, Sleeper is a DFS pick'em app, very similar to Prizepicks, where you're just picking more or less on player projections. You can make up to an 8-pick lineup over on Sleeper, and you can win up to 100x your money. So if you guys do want to check out Sleeper, again, make sure to do so. Sign up, use that promo code NOAH, and get your first deposit matched up to $100. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and talk through props that I'm liking for NFL Week 6 Sunday slate. Been a really good week so far in the NFL. Cashed both the plays that we gave out for Monday Night Football. Cashed both the plays we gave out for Thursday Night Football. So been doing well in the NFL this week. Let's see if we can finish it off with a win here on Sunday. As always, I will have plays for Monday Night Football. I'll probably post that video sometime later on Sunday night. So be on the lookout for that. If you're going to be taking props for Monday Night Football, have a separate video out for that one. But for the Sunday slate, first prop we're going to take a look at is going to be an Austin Ekeler prop. So these just got added to the board, and we just got word, honestly, not too long ago that Brian Robinson is going to be out this week for the Commanders. Now, with Brian Robinson out, how much of a role change are we going to see here for Austin Ekeler? It's kind of hard to tell. The Commanders do still have other running backs that they can use to fill in for Brian Robinson, so it's not like it's just going to be Austin Ekeler getting all the snaps. They do still have Jeremy McNichols, who will probably get some playing time. But I do expect an increase in snaps for Austin Ekeler. Ekeler this season has been playing about 50% of the snaps. Most weeks he's pretty much been splitting snaps 50-50 with Robinson. But now without Robinson, I think we might see Ekeler tick up to like a 60, 65, maybe 70% snap share. And I just think Ekeler's going to be on the field more. And when Ekeler's on the field, he is a guy that has historically been a really good pass catcher. So the prop that I like for Ekeler is more than 19.5 receiving yards. For what it's worth, doesn't mean much, but for what it's worth, he has gone over this line in all 4 games this season with the Commanders. And you can look back at his game log last season with the Chargers, and he had a bunch of games. A lot of his games last season, he had at least 20 receiving yards. But if you look at the volume that Ekeler is getting, he's not getting a ton of targets in the passing game, just 4, 3, 2, and 2 targets through their first 4 games. But he's been efficient, 52 yards, 47 yards, 22 yards, 30 yards. They're gonna call design screenplays for Austin Ekeler, try and get him the ball in space. And Ekeler has historically, again, been a high volume receiving running back. He's been typically a guy that gets 5, 6, 7 targets a game. So far, the Commanders have not been using him that way. But without Brian Robinson this week, I think we're just going to see Ekeler on the field more, which is going to lead to him, potentially getting more opportunity in the passing game. And this is a game script where the Commanders do project to be playing from behind. They're 6.5-point underdogs. They're going on the road to face Baltimore, a really tough team. But Baltimore has kind of struggled against pass-catching running backs. They are top 10 in receiving yards allowed to the running back position, so I don't think the matchup is that bad for Austin Ekeler here. So I do like this play quite a bit, more than 19.5 receiving yards. That's going to be our first play for Sunday. And then the next 2 props that I like are going to be a correlated stack. So on Prizepicks, it's hard to do full correlation stacks because Prizepicks has kind of nerfed the payouts on those. So you kind of have to find a 2-pick, a 2-man stack that you like, and then play it with a couple other props from different games. So that way you can still get the full payouts. So we got 4 picks to give out. You do this stack, it'll still pay out 10x as a 4-pick power play. So the stack that I do like this week is Dak Prescott more than 19 fantasy score, and I like pairing him with Jalen Tolbert more than 9.5 fantasy score. Now, there's actually two props I like for Tolbert. I like more than 9.5 fantasy score. I also like more than 5.5 targets, and we'll talk about why I like these props. But first off, starting with Dak, really like this spot for Dak at home against the Lions. This is a game that sets up to be a very high-scoring game. This Lions and Cowboys game has the highest total on the slate, 52.5. And Dak has been a very good fantasy quarterback, especially at home. Last season at home, he averaged I think over 25 or 26 fantasy points per game. It makes sense to see Dak play better at home because he plays indoors in a dome. It's obviously, it's a lot easier for a quarterback to play indoors in a dome than it is to have to go on the road and play let's say, play in Pittsburgh in December when it's super cold. It's much more comfortable for quarterbacks to play indoors where there's no weather concerns. So it makes sense to see it, like Jared Goff. He's another guy that plays a lot better at home indoors. And Dak had really good splits at home last season. Like this matchup a lot for him against Detroit. Detroit, historically, they were actually a team that used to be kind of easy to run on. If you look at Detroit's stats, defensive stats 3-4 years ago, they were a team that you could just run all over, and they've actually kind of changed up. They're now a team that is really tough to run on, and they're a team you kind of have to beat through the air. Detroit has been much more vulnerable to the passing game, to quarterbacks. Detroit's actually given up, I believe, the fewest rush yards per game this season to running backs. So I definitely think this is a spot where the Cowboys are probably going to struggle to run the ball, and they're going to have to air it out. And if you just look at Dak's props this week, his projections, he's got some super high lines, 283.5 pass yards. His pass attempt line is set at 38. That's the highest of any quarterback on the entire slate. So Vegas, the sports books, they're expecting Dak to be throwing it a lot here. And I think Dak got a pretty good chance at throwing multiple touchdowns. He's favored on DraftKings minus 150 to throw 2 touchdowns this week. And if he throws close to 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, he should have a very good chance at finishing with 19 fantasy points. You could get some yards with his legs too. Dak doesn't run a ton, but he does have a 7.5 rush yards prop, so maybe he scrambles, picks up some yards with his legs. But I just think in this game environment, high total game, projected shootout, good matchup against Detroit, who's been a lot more vulnerable to quarterbacks this season than to the running game. This does set up as a really good spot for Dak to be able to put up some numbers through the air. And I like stacking him with Jalen Tolbert, who has kind of started to fill in as the wide receiver 2 for the Cowboys. Now, Brandon Cooks was out last week, so Tolbert saw increased playing time, and Cooks is out again this week. And if you look at what Tolbert did last week without Brandon Cooks, for one, he played the most snaps that he has played all season. Last week, Tolbert played on 89% of the snaps, so he was on the field for a large majority of the offensive snaps. So he saw an increase in playing time, and he saw an increase in just volume targets overall. He saw 10 targets last week, 7 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown. He's actually been pretty good this season. He's shown the ability to produce when given opportunity. He's gone over this fantasy score line in 3 out of 5 games this season. You look at the games where he went under. Week 1 against Cleveland was a game that Dallas just easily controlled, and Dak did not have to do much through the air. I think week 1 against Cleveland, Dak he had 32 pass attempts, which is pretty low for him. And then the week he went under against the Giants, Dak only had 27 pass attempts that week. You look at Dak's lines this week, he's got a 38 pass attempts line. And the Cowboys, they're expected to be one of the most pass-heavy offenses. So far this season, they've been one of the most pass-heavy offenses. So typically when Dak's throwing the ball a lot, that's going to mean opportunity for Jalen Tolbert to get fantasy points, to get targets. And that's why I liked his over fantasy score and his over targets. Like we said last week, he did get 10 targets without Brandon Cooks, saw an increase in playing time. And you just look at the pass catchers on this Cowboys roster, outside of CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Tolbert, and Jake Ferguson, there's not many other guys that are getting targets. Kevontae Turpin did get 5 targets last week, but he's more of a special teams player, not a guy that typically is going to demand a bunch of volume. Jalen Brooks, he only got one target last week. He's not been a guy that's gotten much volume. So you can expect a lot of the targets to be funneled to CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Tolbert, and Jake Ferguson. And Tolbert, I think, is a little bit underprojected here for the role that he has right now without Brandon Cooks, especially in this game environment and what projects to be a very high-scoring game. And again, I think if Dak goes over 19 fantasy points, we got a very good chance at Tolbert going over 9.5 fantasy points. I think this line's a little bit too low. You look at his receptions line, his receiving yards line. He's projected for 45 receiving yards, 4 receptions. That gives him 8.5 fantasy points just from receptions and yards alone. Then you got to factor in his touchdown potential. He has scored 2 touchdowns this season. He's definitely a threat to score a touchdown any week. So really like this fantasy score line on Tolbert. Also like his over on targets too. I think both these props are really good. I think the fantasy score correlates a little bit better with the targets, or the fantasy score correlates a little bit better with fantasy score. Self-explanatory, but I definitely think you could still play targets too. It's just that if you play these props as like a 5 pick or a 6 pick, you do get a payout deduction. Whereas with a 4 pick, you don't get a payout deduction. So that's kind of why I like playing fantasy score. If you play a 6 pick or a 5 pick with targets, you don't get a payout deduction. So like if you're playing a 4 pick, I would take fantasy score. If you're doing like a 5 pick or a 6 pick, you'll get a payout deduction for that playing fantasy score. So replace fantasy score with targets for Tolbert. But both those props, I do like this week. So last play we're going to talk about, it's going to be another targets prop, and we're going to look at Wan'Dale Robinson. And I like Wan'Dale Robinson for under or less than 10 targets. So Wan'Dale Robinson, he's got some higher lines this week, for a good reason. Once again, Malik Nabers is going to be out this week for the Giants. Malik Nabers was out last week. You did see Wan'Dale Robinson have 9 targets last week. He had, I believe, 6 catches for 36 yards and a touchdown. Wan'Dale Robinson is he's a very low A-dot player. He runs a lot of very quick, short routes. Like you can see, last week he only had 36 yards, but he had 6 catches on 36 yards. Let's see, like week 1 against Minnesota, he had 44 yards, but he had 6 catches on 44 yards. So he's a guy that does get a lot of opportunity kind of in the shorter fields. He's not a guy that's going to run a bunch of deep routes and get targeted deep downfield. But you look at his projection of 10 targets, and this line just looks a little bit inflated to me. So I know why this line is higher, because Malik Nabers is out. But with Malik Nabers out last week, Robinson did still go under this line, had 9 targets. And Daniel Jones had 34 pass attempts last week, which was kind of a high amount for him. Like typically the Giants are not a team that's going to throw the ball a ton. So far this season, they have put up some higher pass attempts games. Like Daniel Jones has had some games with 40-plus pass attempts. But like last season, he was not a guy that would throw the ball a ton. Like the Giants do want to try and run the ball, control the clock. Now, Devin Singletary did get ruled out for Sunday night, so he's going to be out again. But even without Devin Singletary last week, you got a really good game from Tyrone Tracy. He was really efficient running the ball. Eric Gray was really good in the passing game. So I still think we're going to see the Giants, not just completely abandon the run game, even though they don't have Singletary. But like last week, Daniel Jones got 34 pass attempts. Still, Wan'Dale Robinson went under this targets line. I don't think we should be projecting Wan'Dale Robinson for a 30% target share, which is basically what Prizepicks is projecting him for. If you give Daniel Jones 31, 32 pass attempts and you project Wan'Dale Robinson for 10 targets on those pass attempts, that's close to a 30% target share. And that's up there with guys like CeeDee Lamb, those type of guys, Jamar Chase. Like those are the guys that have those type of target shares. I don't think Wan'Dale Robinson's quite on that level. Now, he definitely is going to get volume without Malik Nabers. But you do still have Darius Slayton, who can soak up some targets. Darius Slayton actually led the team in targets last week. He had a really good game. I was just looking kind of around the industry. Like on Underdog, they have Wan'Dale Robinson's targets line set at 9. Prizepicks has it at 10. I think Underdog's line is more correct. I think Robinson's targets line should be 9 and not 10. So I do like the under here of 10 targets for Robinson. With this line at 10, Robinson is going to need 11 targets for us to lose this pick. If he gets 10, it would just be a push, and then as long as our other plays hit, we would still win. We'd still get a 5x payout. But I would bet on Robinson more times than not, even without Malik Nabers coming away with less than 11 targets. I'll take the under on 10 targets all day. I definitely think this is a line that probably gets bumped down at some point to either like 9.5 or 9. So hopefully you guys are able to get it while it's still up at 10, like the under there. But yeah, it's going to be our 4 plays for Sunday's NFL slate. We're going to take Austin Eckler for more than 19.5 receiving yards. We're going to do a 2-pick correlated stack of Dak Prescott over 19 fantasy score with Jalen Tolbert over 9.5 fantasy score. And then our final play is Wan'Dale Robinson less than 10.5 targets. So if you guys are tailing me on these plays, these 4 picks for Sunday, let's try and hit all these plays, guys. Let's try and make some money this week, get a little 10x payout. I would recommend definitely playing this as a power play for 10x, because when you have a correlated stack, typically you want to go for the power play. That's just where all the value is, because there's a very good chance if Dak goes under, Tolbert also goes under. I'd be surprised if Dak goes over and Tolbert doesn't. So you kind of just play for when you do correlated stacks like this, you just play for the hit, all or nothing pretty much is kind of how you're playing. I guess you could like separate these up into like 2 picks and stuff, but I would just play it straight up for the 10x hit, and hopefully we can go 4 for 4 and get that 10x payout. But again, guys, appreciate you watching. Hit that like button down below if you did enjoy. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And again, guys, if you don't have an account on Prizepicks, make sure to sign up. Use promo code NOAH. Place your first lineup, and you will instantly get $50 in promo funds added to your account when you sign up for Prizepicks with code NOAH. But good luck this week. Thanks always for watching, guys. We will see you in the next video.